just because there was a woman at the dinner. My wife of 5 years suddenly asked for a divorce. She said, "Martin, you've hurt me so much. It's just that you're taking advantage of my love for you. Now, I'm tired. Let's get a divorce." I was a little surprised, fearing she might change her mind. I signed the divorce agreement without hesitation. Strangely, at that moment, I suddenly saw some strange comments flashing across my mind. The comments said, "How tough your words are now. Your knees will be just as soft later. Sit tight. The male lead is about to be heartbroken. The female lead is awake. A man like the male lead should just die of a dirty disease." I curled the corner of my lips. Relying on a man's support is nothing to brag about when it comes to being a leading lady. The prodigal son will never return. So don't even think about saving the marriage. Chapter 1. As soon as I returned home, I saw Susanna sitting in the living room with a pale face, looking like a ghost. When the lights were turned on, she stood right in front of me. I was startled, unable to suppress my voice. "Susanna, are you crazy? Sitting here in the dark, trying to scare me at night?" Even though we'd been married for 5 years, I still didn't know how to interact with her. Every time I saw her face, a vague discomfort filled my heart. I thought she would shout at me like she always did, but unexpectedly, her tone was oddly calm. "Martin, I saw everything at the restaurant today." I paused, not taking it seriously, and continued walking upstairs. "Let's talk about it tomorrow. I'm really tired today." She grabbed my sleeve, preventing me from leaving. Her voice tinged with a sob. "Why? After all these years, won't you even look at me? You'd rather mess around with those flashy women, but won't touch me. Do I mean nothing to you?" I gave a sarcastic smile. "Yesterday, I had a dinner with friends, and there were some female classmates I hadn't seen in a long time. We were just catching up, talking about old times. Was that a problem?" I pried her fingers off and said coldly, "What are you making a scene for? Those women are my high school classmates, and I told you before we got married that I would never fall in love with you. It's your own fault for getting the wrong idea. How many times do I have to say this for you to understand?" She staggered back a step, tears welling up in her eyes. "High school classmates, Martin. I've loved you for 10 years. Even a dog would wag its tail for me. I told you not to get too close to other women. I'd get jealous. You're doing this just because you know I love you. Do you think I can't live without you?" Susanna, I honestly wished she would get a dog and stop bothering me. If it weren't for her shamelessly climbing into my bed back then and pressuring me with my parents, I wouldn't even find her worthy of a glance. I didn't know what she was imagining, but suddenly she let go of my hand, forcing a bitter smile. "Let's get a divorce. Someone like you, cold-hearted and heartless, doesn't deserve my love." This wasn't the first time she'd mentioned divorce. Every time she said it, we'd go through a long period of Cold War. Soon, she'd be running back to me, begging for forgiveness, saying she just got too angry. So, I didn't take her threat seriously. I smoothly pulled out the divorce agreement from the drawer and handed it to her. "Sign it if you've made up your mind. Don't go back on your word." She snatched the agreement, signed it without a second thought, and then coldly tossed the document on the couch. "Don't worry, I won't bother you. Not even if I die." I carefully put the divorce agreement away, watching her silently return to the bedroom to pack her things. Before leaving, she even said, "Martin, loving you was the biggest mistake of my life." Loving. I couldn't help but laugh inwardly. Did she even deserve to say that? I stood by the floor-to-ceiling window, watching Susanna walk away downstairs, silent for a long while. Is it finally over? I felt no emotion about her leaving. After all, no one forced her to marry me from the beginning to the end. It was all her own wishful thinking. "Julia, I promised you I'd take care of her. I can give her everything except love. Now she's the one leaving, so don't blame me." Chapter 2. The next morning, before I was fully awake, the phone rang. As soon as I answered, Lucas's annoying voice came through the line. "Martin, do you know who I saw last night?" Before I could respond, a sudden dizziness hit me. In front of my eyes appeared a screen, accompanied by a cold electronic voice. "Plot twist, progress, 70%. I froze for a moment, rubbed my eyes hard, but the screen didn't disappear. Just as I was about to reach out to touch the screen, comments started flooding in. "Is the male lead going to start being a simp for his wife now? Haha. Serves him right for not cherishing the female lead. Look at him, pretending to be all righteous, while using the female lead as Julia's replacement. Wait until the second male lead takes the stage. The male lead will probably not even have a place to cry. What the hell? Male and female leads. Plot twist." I recognize all these words, but why do they seem so abstract when put together? That day, I studied 100 novels, and after reading The 99th Escape of the Little Wife and CEO, Stop Self-Harming, The Lady's Already Married, it hit me. It turns out that the world I live in is a fictional world from a novel. In the original story, Susanna gave everything, but I was unmoved. Finally, after enduring a series of my scumbag actions, she was heartbroken and resolutely filed for a divorce. With the help of the second male lead, she made a stunning comeback and became a sought-after fashion director, adored by everyone. When I finally realized my feelings for her, I was at her doorstep, eyes red, begging for just a glance from her. Seeing that I was silent for a long time, Lucas thought I was heartbroken and suspiciously asked, "Wait, did you really fall in love with her?" I leaned back on my pillow, pinched the bridge of my nose, and said with annoyance, "If you're sick, go see a doctor. Goodbye." Wait, don't you want to know who I saw? Instead of worrying about who Lucas saw, he should spend some time looking at the financial reports. Maybe he could make a profit. He chuckled. "I saw Susanna. She was being held by some guy. Is that it?" "Martin, aren't you afraid Susanna will really leave you?" I put down the newspaper and smiled lazily. "Her legs are attached to her body. Whether she stays or leaves, it's her choice. Hey, after all, she's loved you for so many years. Aren't you even a little moved?" "No, she's always shouting for a divorce. Has she ever actually gone through with it?" I've heard those harsh words so many times. My ears are about to get calluses. Before long, she'll come running back to me. I didn't even try to hide the mockery in my voice. Lucas sighed and said, "If there was a woman who loved me like that, I'd get her the stars if she asked for them. Would you still like her if she killed someone you loved? To have one's cake and eat it too? For me, she's purely disgusting," I said, pinching my temple, my voice cold. Chapter 3. Back in the day, Susanna, knowing full well that I was already dating her sister, still relentlessly pursued me. She had nothing better to do every day but follow me around, chase my car, and secretly take pictures of me while I slept. She even crazily filled my bedroom with cameras, and in front of her sister, she confessed to me, "Martin, I like you. Will you be my boyfriend?" When I rejected her, she wasn't upset. Instead, she flashed a bright smile like a little sun. "All right, I'll confess again tomorrow. One day, you'll realize I'm a better match for you than she is." To prove that she was more suited for me than her sister, she somehow got her hands on a spare key to my house. Every night, she'd sneak over, cook dinner for me, and warm my bed. One time, she even sneaked into my bedroom completely naked to give me a big surprise. I was so fed up with her that I considered calling the police, but Julia would always shake her head, tearfully begging me not to send her only sister to jail. "She's my sister. I promised Mom and Dad I'd take care of her." I hated that I couldn't do anything, but kind people don't always end up well. The year we were preparing to get married, Julia was diagnosed with stomach cancer and didn't have much time left. On her deathbed, she entrusted me to take care of Susanna. I had wanted to refuse, but she cried, calling my name, "Martin, I've never asked anything of you. The only thing I can't let go of is Susanna. Please promise me, if one day she makes a terrible mistake, please let her off the hook." Reluctantly, I agreed. Who would have thought that Susanna would take advantage of me being drunk, crawl into my bed, and have reporters waiting to catch me in the act? The scandal was huge. The Mu family, in order to prevent the public backlash, forced me to marry the woman I despised most. Everyone said she had finally gotten what she wanted, becoming my wife. No one asked if I liked her. Hearing my lack of enthusiasm, Lucas quickly changed the subject. "Hey, stop thinking about all that. Let's go grab a drink tonight." "Sure." After hanging up, the silent screen was filled with comments again. "Dog male lead. The harder you act now, the softer you'll be later. Just wait for the tears to flow. The scumbag male lead is trash, mistaking a pearl for a fisheye." Julia's nothing compared to Susanna. Not even a single hair. Wait until the female lead is in another man's arms. Won't the male lead lose his mind? I couldn't help but laugh. These people are as foolish as Susanna, probably reading so many novels that their brains have turned mushy. The progress bar on the screen suddenly lit up. Plot twist, progress, 50%. The comments started flooding in again. Am I seeing things? Why did the progress go down instead of up? Does the male lead really love the female lead? This is just the first day. The dog male lead is definitely pretending. He's probably terrified inside. Let's wait for him to beg. That evening, I drove my black Cayenne to Mai's bar as planned. Before I even entered, I saw Susanna walking toward me, arm linked with David's, head held high with a hint of provocation in her eyes. As she passed me, she coldly said, "Excuse me, the path is so wide," and she had to walk right past me. Huh? I resisted the urge to roll my eyes and slightly stepped aside. David glanced at me indifferently, a playful smile curling at his lips, then extended his hand in a clear show of dominance. "Moo. Long time no see." I raised an eyebrow and chose to ignore them, about to walk ahead, but he grabbed my arm and, in a voice only the two of us could hear, said, "Didn't expect Susanna to have been married to you all these years and never shared a bed. TSK. So it's you who's the problem, huh?" I looked up at Susanna in disbelief. She was a virgin. So nothing ever happened back then. I had thought I understood human nature, but in the end, I was completely played by one woman. As I stood there in a daze, comments popped up on the screen again. "Ha. Serves you right. Dog male lead didn't cherish her, and now someone else will. Ha. When the female lead no longer loves the dog male lead, He'll realize that late feelings are as worthless as cheap grass. Wait, doesn't the second male lead's words sound odd? It's making me uncomfortable. Probably a simpy guy. Hope he ends up with a guy like the dog male lead. I didn't even pay attention to those comments. Casually, I said, so, should I thank David for taking the trash out for me? The air at home's much cleaner now. Thanks. Susanna's beautiful face instantly turned pale. Her long nails dug into her palm. It was painful just to watch. But frankly, I didn't care. She yanked David away, coldly saying, don't talk to trash. He's not worth it. If she had been a bit more observant, she would have seen the flicker of impatience and anger on David's face. The so-called second male lead. Bah. Hypocrite. I patted David's shoulder with pretended casualness and comforted him. Didn't expect David to end up being kept by my ex-wife. You've really lost all your dignity. TSK. Now both of them were clearly unhappy, but that's all that matters to me. I shoved my hands in my pockets and waved at them. Wish you both a lifetime of happiness. May you be locked together forever. Chapter 4. When I arrived at Lucas's private room, he grinned and threw his arm around my shoulder, giving me that, I understand you, look. Before immediately handing me a beautiful woman, I frowned, swatted his hand away, and pushed the girl out of my embrace. She seemed like she was probably out working for the first time and flinched a little. I sat on the leather sofa, crushed the cigarette in my hand, and said, don't try this on me. Julia's watching from up there. The girl froze for a moment, her hands clutching the sides of her skirt anxiously. She slowly lifted her head, her eyes slightly reddened, and her beauty was breathtaking. I'm sorry. I glanced at Lucas, who was grinning like an idiot, and felt a headache coming on. Get lost. Don't be mad, Lucas said, laughing as he pulled the girl to sit next to me. I'm not interested. You can leave now. I stood up in disgust and moved to the other sofa. Her eyes were filling with tears, and her face turned pale. It was like she had made a decision and walked up to me, her steps hesitant. Can I stay in the corner? I won't disturb you. If I don't stay long enough, my supervisor will cut my pay. I promise I won't make a sound. I'll just stay in the corner. I was a little lost in thought, and my mind wandered back to when I first met Julia. She was so small and frail from malnutrition. Only her big eyes stood out, so beautiful. She and Susanna were switched at birth, the fake and the real heiress. After Susanna went back to the Shu family, Julia should have returned to her biological parents. But to her surprise, all her relatives were gone. The Shu family allowed her to stay, treating her like their own. Yet when Susanna bullied her, they turned a blind eye, because she had lived a life that wasn't hers. Susanna's anger was directed at her. In the dead of winter, Julia wore a thin dress, kneeling in the snow. Her exposed arms were covered in a mass of scars, old and new, a painful sight. When she saw me, she quickly averted her gaze, her fists clenched in anxiety. It made one instinctively want to protect her. Fine, you can stay in the corner. I relented, my heart softening. Thank you. The girl smiled through her tears, happily going to sit in the corner. Lucas set up a card game, with chips and cards scattered across the table. My luck was terrible that night, and I lost 18 rounds in a row. Frustrated, I leaned back and glanced at the girl in the corner. My voice was a bit hoarse as I spoke. Hey, draw a card for me. If you win, it's yours. She looked up at me, hesitating and unsure. I nodded. If you lose, it still counts as mine. She seemed to breathe a sigh of relief and cautiously drew a card, handing it to me. I was about to open the card when the door to the room suddenly opened. Martin. I just saw Susanna in. Spit it out quickly. Can't you see I'm busy? I focused on the cards in my hand. What should I play? I saw Susanna kissing David at the bar. They were all over each other. Aren't you going to take a look? The room immediately fell into a dead silence. Everyone held their breath, and the mood grew tense. Although I didn't like Susanna, I was still known as a player in the dating scene. But I always gave her face. I never publicly said anything bad about her. We each played our own games, and when necessary, we pretended to be the loving couple. But now, to be suddenly cuckolded, everyone was waiting for my reaction. Even the once quiet comments on the screen began to scroll furiously. He's here. He's here. The classic scene is coming our way. Oh man, we're about to witness the two guys fighting over one girl scene. Heh. Late love is more pathetic than cheap grass. The dog male lead is about to beg the female lead not to leave him. I scoffed and didn't respond, continuing to look at my cards. Maybe I was silent for too long because Lucas couldn't help but pat me on the shoulder. Why not go out and check? Who knows? Maybe what? Reconcile? Don't even think about it. It had been so hard to get rid of her, and now he wanted me to go back into the lion's den. Not a chance. I patted the girl on the shoulder and laughed, scolding. Stop looking at them. Look at your cards. It's our turn to play. She hesitated, nervously drawing a card, glancing at me. When I nodded, she placed the card on the table. The comments on the screen quickly started scrolling again. Why is the male lead still sitting there? Shouldn't he be thinking about how good the female lead is? He's probably just pretending to be strong, but deep down he's already planning to apologize. I wasn't sure if I was the only one who could see this weird stuff, so I tentatively asked Lucas. Can you see all this strange text? He looked at me with a puzzled expression, as if to ask, are you stupid? Well, I guess it's only me who can see it. The progress bar on the screen didn't change, as if waiting for me to see that scene and regret it. Curiosity got the better of me, and I picked up the card, calmly saying, I'm going to take a piss. Lucas laughed, still pretending like you don't care. Just saving face. Huh. I rolled my eyes at him and walked out. Chapter 5. As soon as I left the private room, I saw Susanna hurrying towards the restroom. I was about to call out to her when I heard David's voice coming from the next room, talking to his friends. David, you really like Susanna. She's been sleeping with Martin for so many years. You'd be better off finding someone cleaner. TCH, you don't know. She's still a virgin, but in bed, she screams so loud when she wears a bodycon skirt. It's just irresistible. I like her, but it still bothers me that she lived with my archenemy for 5 or 6 years. Through the crack in the door, I saw David take a deep drag on his cigarette, a look of reluctance in his eyes. Is this what the deep second male lead looks like in novels? Just as I thought the screen comments would start flooding in again, everything was eerily silent. What are you doing here? I was about to leave when a cold voice came from behind me. I felt a little awkward, since I had overheard things I wasn't supposed to hear, but I quickly regained my composure. She frowned, lifted her head high, and walked towards us with large strides, her tone unusually cold. I'm no longer your wife. Please show some respect. With that, she tried to push open the door to enter. I grabbed her wrist, sneering at her. Susanna, don't think so highly of men, especially in our circle. Don't come running to us like some stray dog, not even knowing the difference. I wasn't sure if I imagined it, but just as the words left my mouth, the corner of her lips curled up ever so slightly, almost like a fleeting smile. She immediately slapped my hand away. Ow, I muttered under my breath. That really stung. She spoke, her voice laced with disdain. Are you talking about yourself? Martin isn't as cold-blooded as you. It was my stupidity that made me choose the wrong person. So, even if you begged me, I wouldn't get back with you. Let go. I silently let go of her wrist and gave a faint smile. She shot me a smug look and elegantly pushed open the door. Entering the private room, I stood there like a statue, not moving, until Lucas nudged me, snapping me out of my trance. Cold sweat had already soaked my back, and my gaze was fixed on the door. I couldn't quite describe what I had just done. The disgust in my heart was overwhelming. My bro understands you. Don't be upset. Let's go grab a drink. In front of me, the progress bar on the screen started to rise, chasing wife progress, 60%, 80%, and finally stopped at 90%. Haha, the female lead is so cool. The scumbag male lead deserves it. Now he knows what it's like to be heartbroken. When the progress bar hits 100%, the female lead will inherit the scumbag male lead's billion-dollar fortune and live a perfect, shameless life with the second male lead. I clenched my fists. Why was my ending so casually brushed aside? Who Susanna liked was none of my business, but if she thought she could step on me, using me as a stepping stone for her own happiness, she could forget it. My fate would only be in my hands. I don't know if it was my thoughts that influenced it, but the progress bar suddenly dropped, followed by a shrill mechanical sound. Warning, warning, plot reversal progress abnormal, plot reversal progress abnormal, progress, 60%, progress, 30%. Suddenly, Susanna ran out of the room, shouting my name, Martin. I turned to look at her, a flash of hatred in my eyes. Just then, a flood of fragmented memories came rushing back. After the plot reversal process was completed, I disregarded my parents' objections and resolutely gave Susanna the billion-dollar fortune. Then, I left alone, going abroad to heal my broken heart, not even caring about my parents. My parents turned gray overnight because of my rashness. We never saw each other again before they died. I became a puppet, a backdrop for her journey to the top. And in the end, I remained single for her. It was pathetic, really pathetic. Thinking of this, I couldn't help but slap myself. How foolish, to live and die for a woman I didn't love. There's no such thing as a plot reversal. It's just the delusions of those who love but cannot have. To shake myself awake, Susanna loudly declared, I hope you don't disturb my life from now on. David proudly wrapped his arm around her waist, raising an eyebrow as he looked at me. Susanna's mine now. Moo. Show some respect. The screen comments exploded with a flurry of messages, blocking the entire page. At that moment, a graceful figure appeared before me. An idea suddenly struck me. I grabbed her waist and whispered, help me out. The girl looked up in confusion, but when she saw it was me, she nodded and obediently stood by my side. My girlfriend. I looked David straight in the eye, mocking him. My girlfriend is so beautiful. Do you really think I would be interested in the so-called old virgin you're talking about? I emphasized the words old virgin clearly. Susanna's face darkened. Her eyes suddenly red. She sounded a bit aggrieved. We just broke up a few days ago, and you've already found someone new. I really don't mean anything to you. I never said I loved you. From the beginning to the end, You were the one deluding yourself. And how cheap is your love that you could sleep with someone else just 2 days after our divorce? Susanna, are you really that starved for love? Susanna laughed through her tears, staring at me with eyes full of sorrow. Yes, I'm pathetic. I thought one day you would love me. I had plastic surgery to look like your sister. I gave up everything for you. What's so different about me from that slut Julia? The slap came before anyone could react. Susanna's soft skin instantly swelled up with a red mark. I coldly scolded her. Don't mention Julia. You're not worthy. Before marrying me, I told you countless times not to bring up feelings. Not to climb into my bed and force me to break up with your sister. Your love disgusts me. Furious, she shook with rage, raising her hand to hit me, but I grabbed her wrist. I don't hit women, but there are exceptions. With that, I let go of her hand and walked back into the room without looking back. She screamed hysterically, Martin, I don't love you anymore. I will never love a scumbag like you. I paused for a moment but didn't turn around. Love, that word had long since disappeared with Julia's death. Chapter 6. I stepped out of the bar, and a chill wind hit me. It felt cold. I pulled my coat tighter around me and looked up at the distant fireworks. The pitch-black sky suddenly lit up, and in the far distance, there was a couple embracing and kissing, their smiles dazzling and beautiful beyond words. David carefully wiped away the tears from Susanna's eyes. I don't know what he said, but suddenly, Susanna's eyes seemed to brighten. When she caught my gaze, it seemed like a form of retaliation. She stood on tiptoe and kissed David on the lips. Boring. I sniffled, my nose turning red from the cold, then turned my gaze away and staggered forward. I tripped slightly, almost falling flat on my face. Just when I thought I was going to crash to the ground, a pair of soft, fair hands caught me. Moo, are you all right? For a moment, I thought I saw Julia, the woman who had lived in my heart for a lifetime. What's your name? I've had a drink and can't drive. Could you take me to Honya Mountain Resort? I twirled the car keys in my hand, my eyes falling on the woman. She lowered her head slightly, biting her lower lip. She took the keys from my hand and turned to get into the car. My name is Stella, like the star in the sky. I smiled faintly and didn't say anything else. Stella drove me to Honya Mountain Resort. When we arrived, she opened the car door for me with great respect. I looked at the information about Stella on my phone, and an idea began to form in my mind. I gave a careless smile. Stella, would you be interested in making a deal with me? I saw a flash of surprise in Stella's eyes. That night, Stella became my girlfriend. We agreed that she would pretend to be my girlfriend, and I would pay her accordingly. I wanted to see if Susanna would still be able to laugh in the end. I gave Stella houses, cars, and jewelry, making the show of it grand and extravagant. Even Lucas, who had always been on good terms with me, couldn't hold back. Why don't you just go and get her back? There's no need to do all this. I was puzzled, my face full of confusion. Get who back? Susanna. Of course. Isn't all of this just to make her change her mind? You're thinking too much. I lowered my head, continuing with my work. Stop working. Do you know? Oh, forget it. Lucas paced around the office, looking anxious, like he had something to say but didn't know how to put it into words. I was getting annoyed with him and closed my laptop, then looked at him with a heavy gaze. Just say it. What's going on? He plopped down next to me and rambled. Susanna's going to get engaged to David. Aren't you upset about that? I couldn't help but laugh. Why should I be upset? Well, Susanna has been with you for so many years. He stumbled, trying to find the right words but only managing to mumble something like that. Forget it. Just don't regret it later. With that, he didn't wait for my response and rushed out of the office. I stared at the direction in which Lucas left, lost in thought. That line, don't regret it later. I must have heard it more than 20 times. Susanna's best friend even called me, scolding me harshly and saying that I was a cheater and a scumbag. She told me I would regret it in the future. It seemed like everyone wanted me to come to my senses and kept urging me to get Susanna back. But, is that necessary? I didn't love Susanna. I married her because she shamelessly climbed into my bed and put pressure on my parents. We had agreed before marriage to have our own space. She was the one who deluded herself, thinking that time would make me fall in love with her. When she asked for a divorce, I thought it was just because she had lost hope and finally came to her senses. Little did I know, it was just to complete her mission. I stood by the floor-to-ceiling windows in my company's office, looking down at the endless stream of cars and people below. So small, yet so real. Perhaps in the eyes of those watching the screen comments, I was just an expendable character, but to me, what I saw was the real world. Chapter 7. Several days passed, and I didn't hear any news of Susanna's wedding. Instead, I was bombarded with the news of her car accident. At first, it had nothing to do with me, but my mother kept urging me to go to the hospital to see her. Martin, I know you don't like Susanna, but for the sake of how much she loved you for all these years, go and see her. My mother's voice was choked with emotion. Maybe she thought of her younger self, which is why she was so especially fond of Susanna. When she was young, my mother loved my father to the point of madness, to the extent that it could be called being a simp. When my father was staying with other women, She would rush to deliver contraception supplies. Like Susanna, she always believed that if she gave enough, she would get something in return. She always used to say to me, "If it weren't for you, I would have divorced your father long ago." As a child, I felt guilty, thinking that I had burdened my mother. If it weren't for me, she would have lived a happy life. This guilt lasted until I grew up. When I finally had the ability to protect my mother, I urged her to divorce my father, but she stubbornly refused. Instead, she pressured me to marry a woman I didn't love. "Mom, you know I don't like her. I find even looking at her disgusting. Why do you have to force me?" I said, pinching the bridge of my nose in exhaustion. I don't know what I said that hurt my mother's feelings, but she suddenly screamed at me hysterically. "You're just like your father, heartless. If you don't go, I'll die in front of you." Okay, I'll go. Is that enough? When I arrived at the hospital and walked towards Susanna's room, I was thinking about how to make Susanna stop bothering my mother. The barrage of comments on the screen appeared again. Is it finally time for the plot twist? This dog of a male lead is really heartless, only rushing to care after the female lead gets hurt. Too bad. Our big female lead has already fallen for the second male lead. The scumbag is just waiting to cry now. Not all the comments were hoping for me to chase after Susanna. A very small number of them were normal. Am I the only one who feels sorry for the male lead, married to someone he doesn't love? Just thinking about it feels exhausting. But these comments barely caused a stir. I stopped in front of Susanna's hospital room, took a deep breath, and slowly pushed the door open. She wasn't surprised at all. Instead, she seemed to have expected me. "What are you here for?" "I came to see if you're dead yet. It's been less than a month since our divorce, and I don't want to carry the reputation of being the guy who killed his ex-wife." Her eyes suddenly turned red, and tears uncontrollably slid down her face. It was beautiful, but it disgusted me, because Julia would never have shown such a pitiful look to gain sympathy. Susanna clutched the blanket with her pale fingers and desperately asked, "Martin, have you never loved me? Not even a little bit?" Looking at the hope in her eyes, I mercilessly shattered her fantasy. No. Who would love a stalker and a voyeur? I still felt chills down my spine thinking about the cameras she had installed everywhere. But I've changed. I even gave up the pride of being a rich girl and went into the kitchen to cook the dishes you like. Before she could finish, I couldn't help but laugh. "So, did I beg you to cook for me? This isn't about you being a martyr, pushing yourself to marry me. We've already signed the divorce agreement, and you're about to get engaged. Can't you stop coming up with these annoying tricks to bother me?" It seemed like she'd caught onto something, her red eyes tightly gripping my sleeve. If I say I regret it, can we get back together? Martin, I really can't live without you." Her tears fell as if there was no cost to them, large drops falling endlessly. The barrage of comments came back. "What the hell? Why did the progress bar drop to 10%? Didn't it say it would make the male lead suffer? Also, why is the big female lead grabbing onto the male lead's sleeve like this? Shouldn't she slap him and tell him she doesn't love him anymore? What a pile of crap. I'm done watching." For a moment, Susanna's face went pale, and she stared at me in a flurry. It seemed like she could also see the comments. I coldly pried her fingers off my sleeve, one by one. "Don't even think about it. Susanna, you're an adult. No one is holding a knife to your neck to force you to make a choice. Don't try to play the victim and then build a pedestal for yourself. Your love, and everything you've done, makes me feel sick." I then looked at the men standing outside the door. "Come in. Looks like she doesn't love you as much as she says." Susanna panicked. She didn't even bother to remove the needle from her hand and fell off the bed. The 4-bottle crashed to the floor, spilling the liquid everywhere, and big, glaring drops of blood oozed from the wound. The scene was both messy and somewhat amusing. "David, don't listen to him. I love you. Really, please believe me." David remained unmoved, looking down at her from a higher position. Just when Susanna thought he might soften, David's voice was dripping with sarcasm. "You were so pure and aloof when we first met. I didn't expect you'd end up crawling on the floor like a dog, begging me not to leave. Ha ha ha. You don't really think I fell in love with you, do you? If you weren't Martin's woman, I wouldn't even bother to look at you." His laughter was like a sharp knife being plunged into Susanna's heart, dripping with fresh blood. I couldn't help but laugh at the sight of them fighting like dogs. Susanna thought she was controlling the men, but in reality, she was the prey. I gracefully turned and left. The barrage of comments kept flashing across the screen. The screen froze into a pixelated blur. Behind me, I could hear the sound of the two of them arguing. "Slut, old virgin, coward, bastard child," such words kept appearing. The people who had once been closest to each other knew exactly how to hurt each other the most. Chapter 8. The next time I saw Susanna was at my wedding. She wasn't standing next to David, nor with any of the names that had appeared in the barrage. Through the crowd, I could vaguely see that her eyes were a little red, and tears seemed to be on the verge of falling at any moment. I'm not sure what someone had said to the men standing beside her, but the next second, he slapped her so hard that she was knocked to the ground, with blood trickling from the corner of her mouth. The man was furious, pointing at her nose and berating her. It seemed like she was embarrassed, so she ran off, crying, "Moo, what are you looking at? So engrossed." Stella came over with concern. I casually replied, I just saw my ex-wife. She gave a faint, oh, then put on a proper smile and went to toast the guests. I thought it was just a small interruption, but I never expected Susanna to stir up such trouble. On the way back to the villa, she suddenly threw herself in front of my car, arms outstretched. If I hadn't braked in time, she would have been nothing but a pile of broken meat. I felt anger rising in my chest, slammed the car door open, and marched over to her. If you want to die, get the hell out of the way. Don't die under my car. That would be bad luck. She seemed to ignore me completely, throwing herself at my waist and crying uncontrollably. Martin, I regret it. I know you still love me, don't you? Otherwise, why would you have stopped? Is she stupid? Even if I hit someone and killed them, I'd be held legally responsible. Doesn't she get that? Clearly, she didn't. I don't need any title. I'll be with you. Don't leave me, please. She clung tightly to my suit like a parasitic weed sucking blood from its host. I couldn't take it anymore and pushed her away with force. God damn it. Stay the hell away from me. But to my surprise, she sprinted over to Stella, laughing lowly. Stella, do you really think he loves you? Stella glanced at her coldly but didn't speak. Susanna, in tears, pointed at her own haggard face, hysterically saying, look at me. I look so much like my sister. He doesn't love me. So what about you? With only 5 parts resemblance. Ha ha ha. Besides that bitch Julia, he doesn't love anyone. Her eyes grew redder with each word, now crying, now laughing, as though she had lost her mind. Stella couldn't help but roll her eyes. Who said I want his love? He's powerful, and in his heart, there's a first love. But so what? As the saying goes, a woman's 3 great happinesses are, her husband doesn't come home, her husband has money, and her husband doesn't come home but gives her 3 million in pocket money. Susanna, you're still too young. After speaking, she didn't bother to look at Susanna's expression and directly grabbed my hand, pulling me into the car. In the darkness, only Susanna sat there, slumped, lost in deep self-doubt. I'm the female lead. So why doesn't anyone love me anymore? Inside the car, I gave Stella a thumbs up. Well done. Stella, a little timid, flashed a flattering smile at me. Moo. Since that went so well, can I get a little extra pocket money? Add it. I waved my hand grandly and added 1 million to her account. Thank you. Moo. Stella was so excited, she nearly jumped up.